Hey there, Cavaliers. Welcome to this edition of the Cavalier Sports Report. I'm your host, Jean Cantero. Joining me today is NJCAA Women's Basketball Hall of Famer and JCCC Athletic Hall of Famer, former coach Barbara Gill. Thank you for joining me today, Barbara Gill.
Thank you. It's my honor.
Well, first of all, I have to start off by saying welcome back to Johnson County Community College. How do you feel being back on this beautiful campus after so many years?
I feel so proud. Because back in those days it was very small, but because of a lot of people's dedication and hard work, it's become what it is today. So I'm thankful for all of those hard workers.
So you mentioned it was pretty small when you started off here. What changes have you noticed since you started working, and even today, how big it is?
Honey, how long do you have?
Well, you know, right.
It's changed. Well, in the old days, you know, we had the fitness center in the basement, and we could just come upstairs and go across and have lunch, or go over to Dr. Carlson's office, and you know, and so it was real small.
Oh, okay.
And our fitness, you know, our athletic department was small. One big happy family.
Yeah. And nowadays, you have to walk a whole mile to get from one place to another. And well, as you know, the Winter Olympics just wrapped up in Russia, and I hear that you were involved with the women's basketball team back in the 80s. Can you describe your Olympic experience for me?
Yes, I can, but first I'd like to give thanks and praise to Mr. Orville Gregory, our athletic director, who actually hired me, and gave us the opportunity to have the fitness center. But he also encouraged and almost insisted that I be a part of the United States Basketball Association, because I had no clue and I had no experience except with small colleges, small high schools. And so it was, he said, Barbara, you cannot not do this. So I owe him all the credit for actually insisting. And I had a wonderful experience. 8 years I worked with the Olympic program.
Oh, that's terrific. Well, you mentioned the Lifetime Fitness Center, should I say the Barbara Gill Lifetime Fitness Center. How big of a role did you play in its planning process for its construction?
You mean not this construction?
No, but
no. Yeah. Well, it was a basement, and they had some weights, and we had, you know, just where you could just kind of jog and stuff. And so I asked Mr. Gregory, I said, is it okay if we get a couple of fitness center from Hydro Fitness equipment and start a fitness center? And he said, well, that sounds like a good idea as long as we stay within the budget. And so we did. So we started in the weight room downstairs of the original gym. And I want to throw this in just for fun because there was a scale there. And people, after we kind of had 5 or 6 pieces of equipment, people would be working out, and they'd come in and they'd say, well, Barbara, I haven't lost any weight. And I said, well, what are you eating? And they said, da, da, da. And I said, well, are they handcuffing your arms behind your back and shoving the food down your throat? And then they said, well, the scales show this. And I said, okay, we're gonna take the scales out. So we took the scales out. And then I wanted some scales that we would call dial your own weight. So if you wanted to weigh, if I wanted to weigh 130 pounds, I'd dial that in, I'd step up, I weighed 130 pounds. So.
Okay. Oh, that's a terrific idea. I love that. Now, you were also a big advocate in adding fitness classes to the school's curriculum. Was it a challenge to get those types of classes available for students?
Was it what?
Was it a challenge to get those classes available for students?
There wasn't really very many challenges. I just would talk to Mr. Gregory about things, and he'd go over and talk to Dr. Carlson, Dr. Radakovich, or any of the big shots. And you know, if you tell somebody the real reasons and why you want to do it and the pros and cons, and believe in what you want, then it's not that hard. So I cannot remember it being a challenge. Hardest challenge I ever had was trying to get off some committee, and Dr. Carlson said, Barbara, you can't. So.
All right. Now, you just mentioned here a few seconds ago about, you know, eating right, you know, how some of the people are not losing weight. And the United States has really been pushing that here recently. How important is it for you to make sure that every student is eating nutritionally and also exercising as well?
Well, it's the bottom line is taking responsibility for yourself. And I think if we take responsibility for ourselves and not worry about what the government says on labels and the government does this, it's taking responsibility, smaller portions, eating. Your body actually is designed for like 5 not meals, but 5 different nutritious things during the day to keep the metabolism and everything. So I think it's very important. And without exercise, without taking care of the muscles, then muscle weighs more than fat. So there again, if you get overweight and you don't have any muscles, if you had muscles, you'd weigh twice as much and you'd be less as healthy. So no, it's very important for you to eat right. And I'm still on Bobby about that. So.
Yeah. Now, so you mentioned Bobby, your husband, several times. What role did he play? Why are you here in Kansas City?
For 2 years, went to Baylor. He was on a scholarship, and I worked 3 jobs. And we were engaged for 4 years because we couldn't afford to get married. Then we got married, and he was he was in the Army for a while. Then he was football coach. So we moved, as I said. So that's how we got here. After moving, this is true, we moved 26 times. And but anyway, he was working for the Kansas City Chiefs. He was a scout, and then he was assistant personnel director. Had a heart attack in '89. But he's my. We've just been married. We just had our anniversary. We've been married for 57 years, and we've been friends for 62. Okay. And he's why we came to Kansas City.
Now, while you were coaching here, you seem to have done it all, because you coached the volleyball team, the women's basketball team, and even the softball team. You even started that program. How was it to, start all those teams out, being in charge of all of them? How was it to not have an off season as well?
Well, by the time I went to work here at JUCO, excuse me, that's what we used to call it. I had taught at a lot of different places because Bobby was in football, so the end of every football season, our furniture looked for the U-Haul truck. So I taught in a lot of different states, and most of them in public schools, you did everything because nobody else was around to help. So Mr. Gregory hired me for one thing, and then there was a need for another, and then there was a need for another, and so you just do it. And when we started the softball team, we had the volleyball and basketball team, and started the softball team because in Johnson County it's a huge softball area. And so we started, and I told Mr. Gregory, I said, can we start? He said, yes. Do you have enough money in your basketball and volleyball budget? And I said, yes, sir. And so we did. And we saved the money. And how was it? Awesome.
It was awesome.
It was awesome. Okay. I mean, when you love doing what you do, that's your off time.
Now, in your time here, what do you think was your biggest achievement while coaching?
Biggest achievement? I can't think of any biggest achievement. I think it was I took great pride in the kids taking responsibility and graduating and getting on with their lives. And along that note, in 1988, when I was working with the Olympics in Seoul, Korea, and that season was my last season here at Johnson County Community College coaching basketball. My greatest accomplishment was finishing that season. We were 0-24. We did not win a game. But I gained so much from that team because they knew that what I was trying to teach them, it's not the score, it's what you've given and how you've given it. And then to go on with the Olympic team, who had some of the greatest players in the world, and to be the best team in the world, and we were, of course, 24-0.
Yeah.
And won the gold medal in the world and the world championships that year, and the Goodwill Games the year before that. But those, I put that 0-24 team right up there because they never quit. They never missed practice, they never quit. I would say that was my greatest accomplishment. Their greatest accomplishment was getting me through it because they did it well. I could have given up or thrown in the towel. I'd say that.
It's amazing how it doesn't take to win, to learn a lot from the game and learn a lot about yourself as a player.
That's right.
And now, back in 1977, when you first started working here, what was your motivator to sign on and coach here?
Okay, I was teaching at Shawnee Mission North, and one of my ex-players from Washita Baptist College, which was our first job, Bobby was a coach, and I was, there you go, I started out, I was hired to coach basketball and teach physical education. I was the only woman teacher. I was the only physical education teacher, well, the only woman teacher. And I coached basketball and volleyball and tennis and synchronized swimming and swimming. But I think, back to what you said, I had a player there, lots of players. One of them was Marion Otwell, that was an awesome player from a little old country town in Arkansas. She went on, graduated, played, you know, whatever. Then she ended up at Panola County Community College. I was teaching at Shawnee Mission North. Her team came to the first national tournament up here. They won. She told Mr. Gregory, one of my ex-coach is teaching at Shawnee Mission North. You need to hire her, because he had just had it. So that's how I got the job. It wasn't me, it was her.
It was her.
Telling him to hire me, and so he called and he said, I have an appointment for you. That's how I got the job.
Well, I'm sure that JCCC was very happy to have you here in the time that you were here.
I don't know.
Well, thank you very much for joining me today. I very much appreciate it.
Thank you.
That's all for this edition of the Cavalier Sports Report. I'm your host, Jean Cantero. See you next time, Cavs.